Gotta go live.
Well, hello. Welcome back. Why is my camera not changed? It's supposed to auto transition to anyway. Now the music's playing again. Come on, man. What's your problem, dude? Go. All right, let's go back to this. Welcome back, everybody, to the Creative Economy. As you can see, we still haven't figured out how to use technology, even though we've been doing this show for 7 months. But this is our weekly interview series where we talk to voices and players and builders from everywhere across the creator economy at large. We try to talk about topics that are relevant to both creators and builders. This is our deep dive series. So we interview folks and friends that we've met along the way. We do go live on Wednesdays at 2 p.m. Pacific time. We hope you can tune in. If you're listening now or you're watching later, don't forget that we usually stream over on Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn. We stopped doing it on Twitch because we're just never going to make it there. And Twitter Spaces. I think actually now we're streaming live on Twitter Video or Twitter Live as well because we've been using StreamYard for the last week or so. But in case you want to find out about future episodes, head over to created.show. It is the official show page for the Created Economy. We also do long form content at createdeconomy.com, although the long form content is pretty short in nature because we haven't really posted anything. But it's a good way to get on the mailing list and not be notified about things. So today we are happy to have our friend Matt. Oh, wait, did I do the deck? No, you see, I always forget to do something. Like I at least this time
You're all over the place today.
I forgot the deck, like why are you guys like that? I don't know. We should be like this, right?
So, don't you have like a checklist? You usually have a checklist.
Where would I put the checklist? I only have 2 4K monitors. I would need a whole other screen to be able to see that, right?
Look, the 8K.
Yeah, if anything, what I learned at CES is that there's like a 97-inch display that you can buy, and I'm sure you have.
I need the contact. I need the AR contact lenses that tell me things without having to look.
If you didn't know, Greg spent all his money on his background lights. He has no money for the foreground there.
I did. Matt, you will be sad to know I have added no new lights since you were here last time. However, Ken is about to add more lights. So
Ken's catching up.
Not about to. I'm thinking about it. Like, I'm like, do I want to do an overhead? Do I want to do other things? Like, what kind of space do I have? It's just all thinking. Don't think it more than it is.
Don't worry. There's going to be like a 60-inch, grid this matrix light over Ken's head soon before we. But let's do a little bookkeeping here. Welcome back. This is episode 29. It's January 12th, 2022. In case you are listening, we do have our friend Matt here with us. He is popping in as a last minute guest, by the way. So we didn't give him any time to prep. And just to make it fair, we didn't prep either. We do have 3 shows every week. One on Tuesday, which is our created work series, where we do kind of like an office hours approach, but for the next 12 weeks or so, we're going to be talking about how to launch and leverage Web3 for creator economy startups. We do have our show today, Created Economy. I should put these in the right order, don't you think? Where is our deep dive series on Wednesday afternoons. And on Friday, Ken does a good job of pulling all the news together, and I sit there and react to it for Created Briefs. But there's a lot going on. We have a lot of great content every week, and we hope you can tune in at one of these episodes. We are also the Created Economy almost everywhere at Created Economy on Twitter, YouTube. Oh, actually, we are on YouTube now. We're the Created Economy channel. Good job, Ken. We have a Twitch. And also on Flipboard, Ken does curate all the links that we share on a weekly basis over at his Flipboard. We are doing a drop of our AMA coin as the official coin of the show. If you have a rally.io account, feel free to head over. You can scan that QR code if you're watching. I'll share a link in a few minutes over to the Twitter space. But it is free money, so just go get some. It won't cost you anything, I promise. We also do have a Slack and where we have a lot of builders that get together and chat about different topics and whatnot. So now that all the bookkeeping's out of the way, welcome back. Matt, did you want to just quickly introduce yourself, say hello, tell everybody where you're from, and then let's jump into some topics.
Yeah, thanks, boys. I appreciate you having me back. I know I was like planned probably D or E on your list, but I'll take it. I'm sure there were some other
part of the alphabet, actually.
Yeah, that's how I'm used to that my whole life. No, I'm glad to be back on the show. Appreciate it. Excited to kind of talk Web3 and where 2022 goes for the creator economy as a whole, or whatever acronym or verbiage we're using now for the creator economy. I think it's gig economy. We switched to creator. Where else are we going? Is it still creator economy? Is that what we're still using?
I don't know. I've heard people talk about, we talk about the passion economy, enthusiasm economy, the creator economy, Web 3.1, Web 3, Web 3.5. I don't know. Web 4 is about to come out of the woodworks, where that's more like the combination of the metaverse with, blockchain and virtual reality. So who the hell knows right now?
Yeah, I feel like we're trying to jam them all together too and give them all a cool name.
Well, let's step back for a sec. So Matt, historically, you have not been a big fan of Web3, right? Not necessarily if not a fan, but I think you just sort of thought there was a lot of FUD sort of associated with it, right? I'm curious how your thought process around Web3 has evolved, over the last, several months and weeks as things have moved forward.
I gave the analogy, or I still do, that Web3 was like the modern day gold rush, right? And for any of those familiar with that side of history, there was these guys, called it was called snake oil. These guys that used to sell, wares to people that gold flakes or stuff that could, help them while they're on the trail to get to California and get the gold. I feel like we see a lot of that currently, and I'm hesitant, because my job is always, I have to decipher everything that's going on in the social world and then relay that on to the talent we manage. And I feel like, a lot of the Web3 still is being forced. People that are leading it, shouldn't be leading it. I think that's my main issue with it is there's no like clear leaders of it yet. And the ones that are pushing it the hardest are venture capitalists. And I feel like that's just really not what Web3 is all about in general.
Are you seeing
and so that's
creators use it? Like, I mean, FamePick represents or works with a lot of creators. Are you seeing them embracing Web3, and like what does a Web3 creator look like these days, or what could they look like?
We have so we manage. Well, we're at over 300 creators now that we manage directly. I think we've had maybe 1 or 2 max that have tried to dabble in any type of Web3 yet. Now, obviously, we get offers all the time around, NFTs and some type of payment through Web3, which is awesome, I think. But nothing in terms of like creators doing it on their own yet.
Are people using or leveraging? Are they trying to work with creators, I guess, like they did in the traditional realm? Like, can you be a spokesperson, or can you review it, or like, is that how they're approaching you?
Yeah, which is actually kind of, it's slightly upsetting, to be honest, because I think we talked on the show when I was on last time. Like one of the biggest issues with creators and the creator economy is how they receive payment, right? A lot of the stuff is them trying to make a living. And unfortunately, Web3 has kind of opened up even a bigger issue with, how do you validate this form of payment, right? Like brands or partners or whoever's launching it is trying to then obviously pay you in some type of Web3 form. But for creators, they don't know how to validate it. How much is it worth? How much is it going to be worth? So you went from like getting paid very little or free product, right? Or, gifting, so to speak, to now like even less than gifting, which is like digital gifting. So it's been hard to decipher for, us as talent managers, as brand managers, to figure out like how legitimate is this? Is it actually going to be worth something? We have to give a dollar amount to the creator when we pitch it to them.
And don't you think, I mean, I wouldn't call these coin, or at least like the main ones like Bitcoin or Ethereum, they're somewhat stable, right? I mean, yeah. they're not like they used to be, right? Like crapping shitting the bed every other day or something, right? Like, but there is sort of a USDC sort of equivalent, I guess, right? Like that you could sort of peg it at the current value to, I see this sort of, I guess like if someone was like, oh, we have this new coin and
that's what we see.
Yeah, that sounds like nonsense to me. Also, I wouldn't want to do it for that. But I do think, I can see where that is problematic, sort of in trying to interpret the value. But leaving aside, so I think this is interesting in the angle, just I guess where influencers are going to sit or creators are going to sit sort of in the marketing spectrum for sort of like whatever Web3 becomes. But there's two topics I think I do want to talk a little bit more about. Like one is just, I think, we were talking about this when we were chatting earlier, like last week, I think, just about like that potentially there's like a renaissance coming in sort of the creator influencer economy again, because of other changes in the ecosystem, not related to Web3, but just more about like cookies and things like that. So that's kind of like one topic area that I'm curious about your thoughts on, like the trajectory, sort of the space from the traditional realm. And then I think the second topic that I would love to get into a little bit is, sort of the framing of like, or where you think Web3 does serve some, or should or could offer some value to sort of creator economy itself. So let's start with the first one though, right? Like Apple has made a bunch of changes. The sort of cookie apocalypse is sort of upon us, right? What are the implications of that, I guess, like for creators and the creator economy, and I guess the industry as a whole?
Yeah, I think that is one of the main reasons that I see that's fueled the growth the last 18 months, right? It kind of was like, I think, coincidental. I don't think Apple timed it that way and Google timed it that way. I think it was probably on their roadmap. Hey, iOS 14, we're going to launch this. They probably did that 5 years ago.
Right.
But no, that's really helped validate influencer marketing, creator marketing as a whole. Because now you have to find other ways to tap into these audiences, because as a marketer, it's become very hard to target. And traditionally that was my background. So I spent many years in that, trying to figure out how to tap into certain audiences and, drive the most ROI for every dollar you're spending.
Yeah, and I guess, and the premise, I think, this has sort of been the emergent thing with why influencers, I think, were effective marketers as a whole, is just that there is a level of authenticity that a brand has a very, very hard time sort of like, and I'll use the word emulating, because like I feel like brands just dispossess the ability to be authentic, right? Like they're very controlled environments and sort of like devoid of most of the trappings that would allow them to be real, right? But what secondarily happened now, I think, is that as these audiences become less accessible because we were so good at using data to target people and reach people, right? That now not only are influencers the most, I think, effective way to do it, but it's also the effective way to target, right? And so that's sort of like what we've won, right? Like now.
Well, and contrary to popular belief, right? They do own their audience, right? People forget that when you're posting natively in your own feed, right? You own that channel, right? You always have. Yes, brands can show up in your feed, quote unquote, right? But for the majority of the time, you're the one that owns what's being said to your followers,
right?
Which is hard. A brand can't do that, right? Because you're competing against all other brands in someone's feed, right? There's no brand specific feed. And I think that's the one thing a lot of people don't realize when they're doing some type of influencer marketing, or they've yet to do influencer marketing. That's the key. Is these talents do own their channel, like not physically, but in terms of a marketing sense, they absolutely do, because they can control the message. They're the one that can say, I'm going to say this stuff 1,000 times in a row to get my point across.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think I certainly hear the points about sort of the challenges of being platformed to somewhere else, but I almost feel like, you and I pick fights with people all the time about this stuff, but I almost feel like you're platformed because you weren't smart enough to continue to own your audience, right? Not because the platform actually has limitations in the middle, right? Like you always had the ability to say, hey, give me your email, right? Like, hey, like
give me your phone number,
website, right? Like, hey, send me your phone number. Like you always had them. There's no limitation, as I know of, in any platform that actually makes that like illegal, right? For you to do that.
And the best creators do that. Like the ones you see,
right.
just I'll mention them because they're probably the most mentionable. Like the Paul brothers have done an amazing job at that. They're one of the first ones to go the phone number route. Eric, the other, very popular YouTuber, friends with the Paul brothers. I've heard he actually makes more money now through his creator course than he does through any type of sponsorships. And
so it's the guy with $300 course, though.
Yeah, it's pretty expensive. Yeah, but I've heard phenomenal things about it.
Yeah,
obviously, you learning directly from the source of someone that's done it. I think that's a whole industry in itself. A lot of people have gone that route.
Yeah,
but yeah, they're using the networks. They're manipulating the networks for their own good. You can do it.
Everyone can do it.
Everyone can do it.
From day one, you can do it, right? It's not too late, by the way. So if you are listening and you haven't done it yet, I've said this in the past, you're an idiot. So go do it, right? Like you should not be building a business where you don't know how to identify your customers and speak directly to them. Like that's just business 101, right?
Well, the example I'll give, and I give to a lot of people when they tell me you need to own your audience, and I kind of laugh at them because imagine you're selling in retail, right? You're a retail goods manufacturer of any kind, right? It's like not having a website and selling it on your own. That's the analogy I give. Of course you're going to do that, right? Of course you're going to try to get in every store you can because it spreads the message and gives you a better chance of selling more products. And it's the same thing for any creator. You want to go to every channel and use that free traffic to drive as many audience members or fans or followers that you can. Like don't limit yourself. Don't say, oh, I'm leaving these platforms because I want to own my audience. Then where are you going to generate new audience from? How are you going to get new followers? You have to do it yourself. You're then responsible, which is difficult.
Actually, this is a good point. I know you've made it many times, and we've shared this sentiment that, I made a comment the other day in one of the DM groups. I said that, everything human and it, leads to centralization, right? And so we point this out all the time that social networks cannot be decentralized. It defeats the purpose of the social part, right? And so like a lot of folks who are involved in Web3, they're like, we need everything decentralized. And I'm like, it's never going to work that way, right? Like you're misinterpreting what the decentralization means in sort of when they speak of decentralizing things, right? Like it's removing the ability of like a state to remove you or, sort of stop you or censor you in some way. I agree that those parts are valuable, right? Like there are a lot of people who inadvertently have their content taken down without them, for like random, seemingly sometimes random sort of changes in algorithms or interpretations of things, right? But at the same time, that doesn't mean you're allowed to now go to copyrighted music and art and other stuff over in other places, right? This is always the catch-22. Like, yes, you hate YouTube for being centralized, but they're also protecting the rights of thousands, tens of thousands of creators by making sure their music's not stolen, their media is not stolen, right? In one way or another. Who's going to do that on the blockchain? By the way, you can't do it on the blockchain because you can't even remove it.
Exactly. That's been my comment as well, right? There's this issue I have with Web3 specifically around and decentralization around the security aspect, right? Where obviously the last 5 years of the internet, we focused a lot on security, right?
Mhm.
Apple's made changes. Obviously, we just talked about the hiding UDIDs and getting rid of the cookies and all that. But I feel like Web3 hasn't really addressed it. Are we willing to sacrifice kind of security for this, supposedly more secure network? And I mean by that is like every single day you now see some type of NFT broken, NFT wallet hacked, some type of crypto scam. Like I feel like the crypto scams have like surpassed the Nigeria ones on Craigslist very quickly.
Except they actually get money.
and they get hundreds of millions. And so my point is, if you're involved in any of this stuff, what options do you have after some type of theft hack happens? Yeah. In a normal system, there's policies, there's security, there's insurance. In the crypto world, in the Web3 world, who is doing that? I think that is my biggest hesitation around, diving headfirst in, because we know this is going to happen. It's already happened hundreds of times.
I think these things are coming, by the way. Look, in fairness to, and a lot of people are like, well, it's been 10 years since Bitcoin was made or whatever, but that's not really Web3, right? Like that was the blockchain. I think it's almost like, we're really starting now, kind of like we're early days, right? Like when we started on credit cards, there was none of this. You couldn't even I remember hooking up the first time ever hooking up, the hell was it, like Braintree or something, like maybe like 15 years ago, or like some hard ass crap like that, like to do credit card processing online. And it was so much work, right? Like, and that was like a huge jump and leap, right? Like to getting to that point. I do think some of these tools will be coming to sort of this ecosystem as well. I'll share one thing I saw. I saw this great video. It was actually a developer video. It was like a coding video or something like that on YouTube. But the way that they described Web3 is actually, to me, I think one of the more meaningful versions of it, which is just that Web3 is actually a technology layer, right? Not a, right? And so at heart, what it provides is two primary functions. One is persistence and the other is payment, right? And I think about like those two factors, I always seem to revert back to that when I sort of get into the messiness that's above. I'm like, these are the two functions we have new ways to innovate with, right? Like we can do new and interesting things with persistence, and we can do new and interesting things with payments. And when we start to look at it from the technology point of view, not all of the cultural stuff that sort of exists on top of it, right? That's where I think the opportunities do lie for for sort of the creator economy as a whole, right? Because we start to say, like, what are new ways to sort of persist information, right? And I think what this is opening to us is not, the rights management stuff, I think, is a very big topic. And and by the way, most NFTs, for example, right now, we don't have like proper like rights management built into any of those things either, right? Like you're usually buying the contract, but not the content of the contract, right? But I do think, like, for example, loyalty, CRM, relationships, and a lot of the utility that NFTs offer, I think is where the exciting part of the NFT space is. The art stuff to me is, I think it's great. Like, it's cool. Like there are a lot of artists or creators that are artists, right? And have never had a feasible path to, or more importantly than a path to selling their art. I think they've always had that. What they get is a new market to sell it to, right? And I'll take that. I'll take that for them.
I feel like we saw the same thing when, the Patreons, the Gumroads, all those, buy me a coffee angle came out, right? There was, I don't even know if we even consider that Web 2. I'm not going to get into those, but I feel like we're seeing that revolution now for those type of artists, right? Ones that worked digitally, could produce digital goods, struggled to monetize that in the early days. And now, with all those new platforms, they're able to do it very well, right? Course creators,
Yeah.
any type of gig service. And so like I see your point on the artist side with NFTs. It's opened the door. Right?
So performers, right? So I think like the NFT to me has just become like the new receipt. And then now suddenly receipts have like a whole bunch of new ways to leverage them, right? Like, so for example, like we're building some stuff for Web3 now. I look at NFT like personally, like almost like just a new OAuth endpoint, right? It's like, great, connect another thing. And just like I could have looked at your credit card with Plaid to see transactions, I could look at your wallet, your NFT wallet to see, do you own a piece of my art? And if you do, this is, I think, the biggest threat to Patreon, honestly, right? Because I do think like what Patreon was doing, Patreon in a lot of ways to me is really just become like a well-positioned payment processor, right? But like there wasn't a whole lot of other value being offered sort of
beyond. Don't they use Stripe? Pretty sure Patreon uses Stripe.
They use Stripe, but you know what I mean is that they were basically like a payment layer between you and your fans, and that was the real value prop of the platform, right? Like with a minimal amount of delivery mechanism built into it, right? But Gumroad offers similar things, right? Like you could sell a subscription on Gumroad, right? Yep. And you could do it. I think like Patreon was great because they were earlier, right? But I think like if you think about now, you come to my concert, now you can get into like the live backstage feed, right? Like the receipt, the ability to leverage that receipt of purchase or participation in online things like consumption of content, et cetera, that opens up a lot of remixing, I think, for creators to now apply their creative juices to like new types of value they may offer their fans.
And I would love to see that come organically, in my opinion. I feel like right now it's 100% forced. We're trying to take that square peg, shove it in the the round hole. Like I saw the Dallas Mavericks. I know Cuban's a big supporter of Web3, trying to do some type of ticket-based NFT. And I feel like they're just doing it to do it, and they're just trying to like maybe it's more of a proof of concept for them.
Probably,
but I feel like
it's very much the case. I would think for a lot of early types of, I guess, phases of technology, right? I mean, you're always going to be like, let's just throw something against the wall, see if it sticks, and if it sticks, we'll call it a proof of concept and kind of flesh it out and see if we can repeat it, right? And if more people pick it up, then we actually have a I guess a concept, and then like an actual execution, and therefore it kind of mutates to become something tangible. And we can see, oh, this is the reality of what Web3 is. I don't think people know exactly. Like, I think the only thing that's been proven in terms of what Web3 is, or whatever this definition people define it as, is going to be it's crypto and NFTs and the metaverse. Those are the things that people, I think 99% of people probably agree on when you say what is Web3. That's probably what they think about. And involved in that are a lot of scams and a lot of uncertainty, because they're like, I can tell you what it is, but I can't tell you what it looks like, because they don't
know when you see it.
Yeah, it's like pornography in a way, by like legally, that like I don't know what it is, but I can tell you when I see it, right? And that's my concern, is that you look at like, sure, okay, the Web3, great, I'm all for innovation. Let's see where this goes. I can see like what NFTs are doing and all the promise, but what happens after that? What happens 500 miles down the road with this? Because the power of the blockchain is there, but why are we blowing up Web 1 and Web 1.0, Web 2.0, and going all in on Web 3? Like, what is that? Like, why is that? And how is that better than what we have now? Because to Greg's point, you can't blow up social and say, hey, we're going on Web 3. Where are you getting the network effect? You don't have like, I'm going to do my NFT. Who are you going to market to? You don't have Facebook. You don't have Twitter. You don't have YouTube. You don't have Patreon or all this other stuff. Who are you going to sell it to? Like, and that's the point. And I think, I think some people are saying 2.5 is the way to go. And I think that's probably the best way to go right now, until we figure out what the hell 3.0 actually looks like. So.
And that was one of my more famous tweets of 2021 was, a lot of people are trying to bite the hand that feeds them. Like you just said, Ken, if you if you give it up altogether, all the current networks, where are you going to go? Where are you going to get that traffic? And no, to my knowledge, no Web3 or 2.5 or 2.9, no service or company has solved that. They're solving the after part. Like, you already have your audience built, and maybe you want to port them somewhere, sure. But as any legitimate creator knows, or any even entrepreneur knows, you have to always work at your audience, right? Just like your customer base. People will come and go. You got to always add new ones. And I don't think anyone solved where you get anyone from in the Web3 world. Where do the customers come from? Where do the followers come from if you don't have these social networks?
Well, we even talk about how discovery is actually still a problem in Web 2, right? Like, so if it's a problem in Web 2 with highly centralized systems, like, can you imagine what it's like in Web 3, right? Like when you have anonymized wallet addresses as the IDs of people, right?
It's the metaverse. We don't even know who's who, actually. You imagine trying
Right.
to, if you're a marketer trying to target people, like, is that their actual self? Is that their alter ego? Is that their,
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah. No, go ahead again.
No, great. I was just saying, like, I think, your point, what you're saying earlier in terms of like the phrasing, the words you use, like loyalty and like ownership of data, or something like to that point, what you're saying earlier, Greg. I think when you look at from the creator standpoint, that's probably the most applicable stuff that you can take away from Web3, right? It's like, okay, you know who your audience is, you own that data. Like, yeah, you kind of own that data now through Web2, but you have a little bit more sense of ownership in Web3. So there's that privacy and sort of security wise, not like, but there's still a lot of ambiguity in Web3. So that's why I was wondering, is like, what does a Web3 creator look like? And Matt, you're saying that only a couple of your of your customers on FamePick are actually going in on Web3, and most of them still Web2. And I think that's a smart way to play it, because just like, sure, you want to build a community, go explore Web3, but don't go full in, because I mean, that's dangerous, because you could be privy to a scam. And I get legitimately why some creators are choosing to do NFTs. If they're an artist, if they are a designer or something, want to find ways to really make money off of this, then sure, NFTs might be the way to go. Because Greg, how many NFTs have you bought just based off of the way that you may know the artist, or you like the artist style?
Today?
I think that's well. How many today, right? But I mean, just in general, right? I mean, you can ask people why they bought an NFT, and it's like, oh, they like the artist style. I would imagine same thing for like the Bored Ape Yacht Club, right? It's like, why would people tend to buy them? Because they're popular, they're nice design. It's typical art, right? But then what happens after that? Like, what happens after the purchase? And I think that's what people haven't quite solved yet. There are startups that are working on it. I don't think creators have quite fully grokked like how they want to use NFTs. And if there are people that are listening or watching that are artists, they're creators that are in NFTs and see the potential afterwards, let me know, because I'd be happy to. I would love to learn about that. But I mean, that's kind of like, what do you do after that? I mean, do you unlock a membership? Do you what's next to keep people engaged and grow your community? And I don't know. And do you have those? Are you asked those questions from your creators, Matt?
Yeah, so I think that's the point we're at, right? I think, Web3 is probably multiple years away from any type of mass adoption. And that's the issue we're facing as, as operators, as talent managers, is simply, we don't have all the answers yet. And I don't feel comfortable giving my talent, direction if I don't have all the answers, because I could be sending them into, God only knows where. And I think we've already seen it, right? If you were to, going back to it, bite the hand that feeds you, cut off your current resources and jump into this thing, and something happens, right? We saw today, Kim Kardashian and Floyd Mayweather got sued for their coin or crypto. I don't even remember what they launched, Ethereum Max or something. But let's say you're not Kim Kardashian, which obviously has a million other revenue streams, or Floyd Mayweather, a million other revenue streams. If you're a creator and you went all in and something happened, you got scammed, you got sued, where do you go? There's no recourse for you. Your career could be over. And that's why I struggle a lot with the leadership of the Web3, movement, whatever you want to call it, the community right now. The leaders right now are the ones that already either have a lot of money or are set to make a lot of money. And, that's why I don't, I mean, if Web3 was here, Jake Paul or Mr. Beast or Colin and Samir, one of these massive YouTubers would be all for it. They'd be all in and they'd show you the way. And we just haven't seen it yet. And until one of those guys gets in or one of those women gets in.
Yeah. I think we're close though, Matt. So I guess where I think this fits in the spectrum of things is we were just dipping our toe into sort of like the direct to audience sort of realm of like monetization, right? We just barely got here, right? It feels like when we started this show, Web3 was like nowhere, in the level of like consensus or forming around it, right? Like that, like 7 months ago than it is like right now, right? But I do think it really is an extension of the direct to audience model, right? Like that we were talking about.
Agreed.
Because what I think it offers is actually like a lot of what we were hoping Zealous would be, right? Like, is that it's really about like, how do you create a community of people and then sort of like use that membership model, like with that community of people, right? And I think like a creator could protect themselves by not like selling anything more than access to themselves, right? Like Cameo has proven you can do it in a transactional way and deliver it, but you could also deliver that in an ongoing way, right? And a lot of people are setting up Discords and I think of like where I think the short-term win for creators is going to be is probably in that arena, right? Like where you're using it as an alternative form of paying, right? And what it means is that the folks who have made more or early adopters, or maybe you have like a ton of Gen Z people who like put all their money into this already, where they don't feel like where they don't spend dollars, they spend crypto though. Like there's people who like it's an entirely different universe of money, right?
I thought about that exactly like yesterday, Craig. It's almost, remember when this massive trend in checkout became adding PayPal, adding even now, right? Afterpay and Affirm, all these other payment options, checkout with Amazon. I feel like the first iteration of someone that's really going to win, war battle number one of Web3 is going to be some type of checkout payment extension, because you're right. The people that want to pay with crypto want ways to do it. They feel more secure doing it that way.
Yep.
That's the angle they want.
Coinbase Commerce, by the way, I've used it. It's like the Stripe of crypto, right? Like you literally, you can link to it just like Stripe. It has a landing page. People can choose whatever currency they have, and it maps back to a USD denomination basically, and you can check out with crypto, or you can literally put a Stripe button there and a crypto and a Coinbase button there, and boom, you can like offer the option of choosing either one, right? I also think what happens, or what this facilitates, this is what we're working on now, is if you take what Twitch, I think Twitch has been an amazing example of like what's possible, but it hasn't escaped Twitch's walls, right? The idea of like channel points and of a community supporting each other, members supporting each other to be part of that community, all of those kinds of interactions, most creators don't have the leverage that Twitch actually affords them unless they're on Twitch, right? Like, why doesn't a YouTuber have that? Why doesn't a musician have that, right? Like, why doesn't like someone who produces poetry or writing on a regular basis have that? I think like unbundling that, I think Web3 is an easy way to actually accomplish some of those mechanics, even if you hide them, right? But it's a way to do a lot of those things, right? Because that's that community aspect of saying like, like when we're talking about 100 true fans, 1,000 true fans, all these other things, right? I believe that those are viable pathways, right? But I believe like Web3 may facilitate getting to the kinds of dollars you need to make it sustainable faster.
Yeah, I agree. It's again, it might not be the Web3 we know now, might not obviously be what Web3 becomes.
Yeah.
And I think I think 2022 will be that year, the year of transition. And again, I think as we all kind of mentioned earlier in the show, like that's my biggest issue with it from jumping in is it's in its infancy, right? Like you don't throw an infant into the water to see if they can swim in a pool, right? You got to teach them how to swim. Yeah. So I don't want like, people that are listening that are creators and whatnot, don't jump in without at least getting some type of knowledge, right? Dip your toe in, just like you went on a new network, right? If when TikTok came out, all the Instagram creators didn't cancel their Instagram accounts and turn them off. No, they pushed the users from Instagram over to TikTok. All right. Same thing if you launch a Twitch channel, you do the same thing. Oh, I'm going from YouTube to Twitch. You push them over slowly. But I feel like right now the kind of the talking heads in the Web3 world, they're like, you got to get in now or you're going to be too late. Right? They're trying to like shove it down your throat, and that's my issue with it.
It's kind of an interesting observation I had, and probably plenty of other people had this as well. Greg, you were talking about how people are wanting to transact on cryptocurrency and everything like that, or on Bitcoin. And it's like they set up these whole new things, but interestingly, like a lot of the platforms that are embracing or that have embraced payments through crypto are Web2 companies, right? I mean, yes, Stripe is doing this as well. You talk about Coinbase Commerce, but PayPal is doing this. Square has embraced Bitcoin or being able to buy and sell. Like PayPal has done it through Venmo and all these other things. So a lot of these traditional, well, Web2 traditional payment providers are embracing paying through transactions through crypto of some sort. So it's not like you necessarily need to blow up the entire financial system and start new in order to transact through crypto. I mean, so that's kind of like you don't necessarily need to redo everything. You don't need to scorch the earth. You can just go with Web2 with 2 and find some happy medium in between, and in order to advance things in a, I guess, more deliberate path and to get to what you want, as opposed to just saying to Matt what you're saying is like, everyone dive into the Web3 waters and see and try it out and build stuff, and Instagram and social media be damned, like that's old
Well, I
school.
mean, I feel like that's a lot of the stuff we see, right? The people that are, like I said, leading the charge right now are ones saying that Web 2 isn't working, right? There is no ownership. It's too centralized. Too many companies, have controlling rights. But Ken, as you just mentioned, it's those same companies that are probably going to be part of Web 3 and hold the lion's share of it. So how is decentralization going to happen?
Yeah,
Right? They're not going to leave it. If they think it's the future, they're going to join.
So, Matt, like, what are you seeing in terms of like a little bit moving away from the Web3 side of things? Like, we're at the start of 2022. Like, what are you seeing in terms of the landscape for creators this year? Like, what any interesting predictions that you see besides like the move or the embracing of Web3 of some sort?
I think there's two things I would like to make a prediction on. I think one, if we can finally break free of this pandemic in some way, I think events with a Web3 element become very popular. Probably summertime, right? When we notoriously, I guess, the pandemic doesn't happen. But I think you'll see some type of concert or events or pay-per-view. We'll see creators very heavily focused there. And I also think we'll start to see a lot of creators replace traditional celebrity roles, meaning it could be in movies where they become actors or actresses, or creators become the main spokesperson for certain brands. I think now that the industry is validated, you'll start to see it. I think Super Bowl last year we saw a couple. Super Bowl coming up, I'm sure there's a bunch of creators booked for certain elements there, and then that will really help these brands push their message off of traditional TV and onto social, where we know a lot of stuff lives, and where creators control a lot of those messaging.
Yeah, I happened to watch like The Amazing Race, so that's back on the air now. And I happened to be watching it, and I noticed like there's this couple that was on there. I'm like, wait a second, I recognize them, and it's because they were on a major TV show or in a movie or anything. Like I had recognized them because I had seen them on Facebook. I'd seen people share their content on Facebook. They're content creators. They're like I forget the name of like the Hollingsworth or something like that. I'm not entirely sure. But I recognize the name, the faces, and I'm like, oh, I had watched their videos throughout the pandemic because as you cycle through Facebook, there's a lot of people that share those type of things, and I'm like, I wonder. And then there's other creators that were in this on the Amazing Race as well. So as you're talking about like your prediction, you're starting to see creators kind of become celebrities, like societal celebrities and outside of like the internet, the digital age. Like I can kind of see that as well. Like I was wondering if like The Amazing Race was like the entire cast would be made up of, creators, which like like the Paul brothers could have been on there.
Can you imagine?
That would have been hilarious, right? I mean,
Well, the angle is, right, if I'm a TV show producer, these guys, these creators have built-in audiences. So it's automatic amplification. Anyone watching, their audience is going to come watch. I mean, if you look back on it, that's where the term guest star came from on traditional TV. You wanted to take that star's audience, whatever show they were on, and bring them to this other show. More currently, if you guys watch any type of cable TV, like all those Fox shows with like FBI, and they always do these like mashup episodes where they get the characters from the other shows, and that's what they're trying to do. They'll sell higher ad slots so they can drive higher viewership for that one show, the crossover event or whatever they call
it. Now, so I have a question. I guess this prediction I think sounds reasonable, relevant, but seems like for kind of the upper tier. Do you have a prediction or thoughts about sort of, I guess, like the middle, right? What's going to happen with the folks who don't have kind of that kind of escape velocity, maybe?
Like us, perhaps?
Maybe a little bigger than us.
I think we'll start to see a lot more branding, self product launches from creators. We saw that quite a bit during the pandemic. And I think, as we roll out of this, hopefully we'll see more of that. I know the what's his name, KSI, and then Logan Paul launched Prime, the drink. Chamberlain Coffee's been big. Obviously Kylie Jenner's makeup line, and there's whole. I think Colin and Samir did a whole segment on creator products. I think we'll start to see a lot more of those, and I'm sure we'll see digital versions, right? Some type of Web3 element. And to me, that's where I think the mainstream will start to switch and the creators will start to switch to Web3, is when one of these leaders of the creator industry, launch something, which I know will happen this year.
Do you see like more of the houses sort of continuing, or sort of like this, kind of Jay-Z model of like producing, sort of, or bringing up others? Do you see that model sort of like evolving more, or do you think that was that they're not cut out to sort of scale that?
Yeah, I haven't seen too many of those pop up lately. What does that sound? Sorry, guys. But I think that's always going to happen. I think we'll start to see, like I said, more traditional TV shows with creators. So if it becomes Big Brother, Instagram edition, we might see that. But I don't know if you'll see like another hype house thing. You might, but I don't think those are really proven to be that.
Well, I guess I mean more of like the TikTok houses. Like, do you see more of that sort of like creators getting together or starting to like start to represent, I guess, other creators, kind of like from a talent point of view?
I see it at the collaboration level. I don't know if I see it from like a management level. Like I think we'll see that explode. At least that's my hope for us. But I think, it goes back to like the creators need education. They need help, right? A lot of these guys are being, not forced, but, jumping into the whole entrepreneurship business side. They're not trained for. A lot of these kids are young, right? A lot of them didn't even graduate college. They don't have any sense of, or, maybe they had a real business job and now they're business owners, a lot of them, right? They might even have employees, assistants. So I think hopefully there's a trend of education. I don't think that happens this year. I want it to, but I still think we're a little ways away from that. But I think that's one of the biggest needs in the industry is these creators need help, right? Whether it's business side, audience growth, editing, brand managers, talent managers. There's the industry's created these massive other needs, as the creators grow and become, legitimate celebrities.
Yeah.
Do you worry? How do you view Google's, Google, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn's development of creator management teams? Like, are they a good thing for creators? Are they just ultimately looking out for their company's bottom line to to keep creators happy so that they can further grow their product and usage? Are they going to be helping you guys out in any
I've
way?
never seen one of them do it well. All the those main company owned products are usually pretty bad. Usually a third party. I mean, you could look at it just from the, just think of the influencer platform side, right? Facebook has a marketplace, TikTok has a marketplace, Instagram has a marketplace, but you see Maverick and Aspire IQ and those companies, those are the ones that kind of lead the way. I like these Ken. I think, like you said, I think they do it just to kind of keep the creators happy, so to speak. I don't think it's a focus for them. I think it's just kind of a necessity.
So what are you seeing in terms of, actually, there's one thing I wanted to bring up while we have like probably a few minutes left here.
Yeah.
There's a tweet I saw, and we talked about this early on. I can share this tweet here, but there was a tweet that your company FamePick posted today. Let's say this morning. There it is. And it's saying the top influencer marketing brand in 2017 ran approximately 175 campaigns per post. In 2021, the top brand ran about 2,800. It's a 1,500% increase. Can you further elaborate on that? Like, why is this significant, and what kind of caused this to increase? And lastly, why should we all care about this?
So I got started in FamePick in 2016, and back then influencer marketing was, it was classified as experiential, right? Meaning maybe got 1% of a brand's marketing budget, maybe 10% if you were, very aggressive. And that's what you see, right? Only 175 that was ran by Audi car company, which obviously has a massive marketing budget. So that makes sense. But over the last 5 years, you finally saw influencer marketing, creator economy become legitimate. And that means they got more of the marketing budget. And now you're starting to see brands go, holy shit, this actually works. Let's dump more of our marketing budget into it. And that's really good news for creators. And this is just the beginning. This year was probably the first year, 2021 was the first year where you probably saw maybe a 50-50 split of regular digital spend and influencer spend from our research. And as as that becomes bigger, or if influencers become part of the full marketing spend, these dollars are just going to go up. And that's why, again, it goes back to the point where, do not give up on traditional networks, because this is where the brands are going to spend the money. And for those that don't know, brands have a lot more money than the average fan of any YouTube or Instagram or Twitter creator. Brands obviously have a lot more money. Always will.
And obviously this is do you see any concern that these numbers could maybe go down in 2022, or are you fairly optimistic that this could blow up even more and just like go to the moon?
Yeah, we saw 20, I think I said earlier, 2,200, about 2,300 was the lead in 2020. So that's up another, 30, 40% year over year to now. I don't see this changing at all. Again, this is, just one, these are US numbers. So, as the world catches up as well, US always leads with talent. South Korea is trying to fight us on that now with K-pop, but we have more people, we have more creators. So I think as the world continues to adopt, it's just going to go up.
Yeah, I think it's still, what is it, Matt? 70%, 75% of creator earnings are still from the brand side of the house.
I think it's even higher. Yeah,
it may be
it's at least 75% plus.
Yeah, and so, I think this ultimately speaks to why your audience and ultimately a community is your most valuable asset, right? Because even if they don't watch something, but you have the relationship with them, you'll be able to leverage that, work with them, and monetize that. Even if you didn't post another piece of content publicly, you still have that amazing relationship with those people, right? And I do think that's why it's so important that more creators continue to formalize those relationships, because that's the thing that they can leverage in multiple places, in multiple venues, with multiple partners, including their own community, right? Like the community can also be part of that effort, right? Like I think that's for me why Web3 is interesting, is really co-working now with your own community to do things.
Well, one point I do want to bring up on this, right, is when creators do entertain brand deals of some kind, which I think all of them have to at some point, is they need to use it like a freelancer traditionally has used it, right? Maybe you did, some type of gig work to, Greg, I know you've talked about it, where you do some type of traditional work to fuel your, to fuel Zealous, right? Like that's how you should treat it. You should use the brand dollars, use the partnership dollars as a creator to fuel your audience growth. Mr. Beast has literally wrote the book on this. He wrote the Creator Bible on taking brand money and doing these insane, videos, and keep going up and up and up, right? I mean, he used to spend 500K on a video. Now he spends 5 million. He gets that money. He's not, that's not money that he makes himself. That's brand money. Yeah. I think Clash of Clans, they sponsored the Squid Games video. So it wasn't like they just put up the money. No, they took the money and they used it to drive audience growth. As a creator, that's not a bad thing. Don't look at like, oh, I have to do a brand partnership, I'm going to alienate you. You're not. Use it to gain more fans. If you think you're going to alienate them, you might gain, more to make up for that.
Right. Yeah, I think that's absolutely right.
And that's why, again, you can't, like, if you're going into Web3, don't cut off that arm. Your Web3 arm, right? Don't cut it off, because you still want to use both arms.
Yeah.
Right.
None of these
use it to fuel the other one.
Yeah. None of these should be in lieu of each other, right? Like these are all additive tools.
And I hope that's the biggest takeaway. And anyone listening, anyone watching, takes from this is, someone that does this every single day, right? You don't cut it off just because you think the next great thing's coming, right? Transition into it. That's if you have to learn to execute, that's what you need to execute on, is learn how to transition to the next platform, the next, the next, whatever the next thing is.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
What's coming next for FamePick? Like, I mean, when we talked like 20 episodes ago, like this is,
oh wow, it's already been that many.
Episode 7 or something like that. Like you were like the OG side, right? And we learned about FamePick. We learned like the representation side of things, and we learned that you're building out software. How is FamePick going now, and what can we expect from FamePick in the coming, not in the coming year, in this year?
So we're really focused on creator education in terms of starting a business. So if you are a creator that's making money from creating content, which I think a lot of people in this space want to be, we want to help you manage that. Not from like a stir angle where it's actually physically managing your money, but helping you with the business elements, whether that's contract reviews, negotiating with brands, launching an event, right? Getting paid. Unfortunately, a lot of creators still have a really tough time getting paid. That's something we're really focused on. We might add a Web3 element there if they want to collect their, income in Bitcoin, like Antonio Brown. Oh, I guess he's unemployed. But who was the other guy? The Rams guy, Odell Beckham, gets paid in Bitcoin.
Is accepting in Bitcoins. Andre Iguodala is accepting Bitcoin.
Yeah.
A lot more athletes are doing that. Yeah.
And so if that's the financial freedom you're looking for as a creator, we're going to try to help facilitate that. But again, we're trying to just add legitimacy to this industry. We want, brands to take, their relationships with creators, professionally, and make sure creators act professional because they know it's a job. A lot of creators, struggle with making content for fun and making content as a job, right? That's one of our biggest, like, kind of sticking points or sticky points that we teach creators we manage. Like, if we manage you, right, we're helping you. You got to treat it like a job, because we treat it like a job, and the brands treat it like a job, right? They have investors, board members, and shareholders to report to.
Cool. Any final questions there, Greg?
No, I think I know you're working on some news, and so we'll have you back again when that time comes as well. But feel free also, Matt, to if you haven't checked it out, FamePick, awesome service. We do encourage you to go check it out. If you're a creator, obviously, I think you may want to chat with them. But I also think, Matt, feel free to pop in, if you ever can on our Tuesday show, because we've been exploring actually how startups can leverage Web3, and I think that a lot of that overlaps significantly with how creators can do it as well.
You just got to send me a calendar invite, Greg. If it's on my calendar, I'm one of those guys.
I'm one of those guys too. Forget. So I will send you the recurring invite so you know it's there.
Just in case. I would love that. I'd love to see who's on.
Yeah,
I need the TV guide for podcasts.
We're working on that. We did have a, even just this week, we had Francine Hardaway, our friend, and we had another new friend, Megan Guy from, who's a VC, and we had a good, interesting conversation. It was, as Francine said, it was more questions than anything else, but I think that that's sort of the time we're in right now, right? But it was interesting because we were talking about we are transitioning to are there new ways to fund it? Actually, today we were supposed to have Marina couldn't make it this week. She'll be back. I think we're booked her for February 6th. But she was one of the first creators to raise money from from slow ventures to actually invest in her future or her future earnings. I think that's the only person I imagine more invested in that than a VC is going to be her fan base, right? And finding ways to make that a reality for a lot of people, I think, is just really powerful, right? Because you can get a win. So many people are looking for that win personally, right? And I think we think about the whole cottage industry, whole pipeline of what it takes to produce content and to run a good community and all these other pieces. Your fans can be part of that. And if they can do that for 20 of the creators they love, they've got a full-time job also, right?
Yeah, no, that's the ecosystem effect.
Yeah,
I think we're all working towards, right? This thing can be sustainable. We just need to figure out ways to make it work.
Yeah, without a doubt. So we'll hopefully we'll see your face a bit more here soon. But thanks for joining us. I know it was a little last minute, but we do appreciate you hopping in, and obviously always great insights about the space.
Anytime. Thanks for having me, guys. Appreciate it.
Appreciate it.
All right. Well, Ken, I think that's all we got today. I hope you've been doing a good job getting all the news together because
I'm just going to wing it. We'll just have Matt on the show again, and he'll just break us down on what the news is.
Yeah.
We'll jump in at.
Well, no, but in all seriousness, Ken does look at the news all day. That's actually his job. So,
I purposely look at it. It's it is part of my job, and I just find it.
I do have another job. So sometimes that keeps me a little busier, but there's a lot of great creator news coming on as well. So check back in Friday morning, 8 a.m. Pacific time. We'll be back with Creative Briefs, which is our weekly news show. And if you want to get a preview of the links that are in there, head over to flipboard.com/created economy, where you can see all the news that Ken's been curating already while we work our way towards Friday. So thank you all for being here. We appreciate your time, and we look forward to seeing you soon. And if you want to grab that AMA, just take a look in the Twitter thread or over on our account, Created Economy on Twitter. We shared a link to it. So without further ado, we will see you all next week. Goodbye, and have a great week.
See you.